higher up you are, the more leads you can get, the better leads you get, because you show up before all the other attorneys. And it's also a direct reflection of your business. It's going to be the first thing they see when they're looking for you, and hopefully it lasts. They call right away.
I'm John Strohmeyer, and this is the 5-Star Counsel Podcast. The market for legal services is shifting, and lawyers who don't adapt will be left behind. This podcast gives you a competitive edge in today's market by sharing the client service lessons you probably didn't learn in law school or in law practice. Let's start the show. Hey 5-Star listeners, before we start, I want to tell you about our amazing sponsor, Smith AI. Smith AI is a virtual receptionist service for small businesses with a specialty in working with solo and small law firms. I signed up with them within weeks of starting my firm because they are affordable for even the smallest solo practice. Their friendly receptionists respond to potential clients in Spanish or English, screen and schedule new leads, and can even take payments. And now they're answering calls 24 hours a day. So even when you're asleep, they're still working. Even beyond the phone, they've got live agents and chatbots ready to capture leads on your website, by text, and by Facebook Messenger. Smith's friendly gatekeepers can staff your front line so you can work uninterrupted. You can finally have the peace of mind that while you're working, you're not missing out on future work. Plans start at just $70 a month for calls and $100 a month for chats. Smith AI is offering a free trial, and our podcast listeners get an extra $100 discount code with promo code 5STAR. That's FIVESTAR. Sign up and learn more at www.smith.ai. Don't let another day go by. Try Smith AI. Gentlemen, Wes, Paul, it is great to have you here.
Thanks, John. Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you, John.
And so today we have brought both of you on to talk about the new website everybody should be having, Google's My Business page. It's becoming, as far as I can tell, the second most important web page for any business, possibly going to pass and become your first and most important web page soon enough. There's a lot going on there. I feel like I'm doing a good job on it, but at the same time, there's so much to explore of what could we be doing, what should we be doing, and how can we not dig ourselves a hole with Google? And so with that, I'm going to kind of let y'all pick up and run from there.
Yeah, I think you said it really well there. As far as it's the most important, or the second most important, could very well be the most important web page as an attorney. If you think of it this way, when somebody is looking for an attorney for a specific type of service, whether that's personal injury, divorce, what have you, they're likely going to go to Google and search for that type of attorney in their area. The first results that are going to show up on a search engine are going to be ads and Google My Business. And the higher you are towards the top of that, the more business you're going to receive. And those people are likely going to go to your website from there, or could simply just call you or have a question answered right off of that page. So the higher up you are, the more leads you can get, the better leads you get, because you show up before all the other attorneys. And it's also a direct reflection of your business. It's going to be the first thing they see when they're looking for you, and hopefully it lasts. They call right away.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Paul. Wes, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a time for you to be able to set yourself apart in what you do best as well. So there's category optimization and a lot of other optimization that we'll get into. But the biggest thing, like Paul mentioned, if you are a personal injury attorney, you're able to highlight that as your main category, and that's going to help you show up for those results. So, from a service aspect, people want to be able to find what they need quickly. If you're the best option in their area, in their region, as they're searching, and you have that optimized, you're going to show up and you're going to make that connection quickly. So somebody can get the help that they need from the right kind of attorney as fast as possible using your business page, just because you did update it and optimize it as you should.
Yeah. And so as even just sitting here thinking about this right now, rather than letting Google's robots crawl my website and figure out if I'm any good, it may be better to think of the My Business page as the direct portal to tell Google, like, this is exactly who we are. Is that kind of the way to think about it?
Yeah, and the two actually do work together closely. So, we're talking Google My Business, but having an optimized website, having the addresses match, having the phone numbers match between Google My Business and your website is also a positive factor. So that's going to help the business rankings show up. It's going to help your website show up. And when people are finding that page, they're taking specific actions. So according to Google, so 55% are going to go to your website, 25% are going to call you directly, and the other 20% are going to get directions to your law firm. So very actionable, actions that they're taking place right after they find your page.
Interesting. So when you're saying that 55% are going directly to the website, it's almost like this is the pre-page that we should be putting whatever people need to know as a way of, look, they're scanning down, here are all the different attorneys in the area. They're using it as a first pass to see who should I even spend 10 seconds looking at their website on.
For sure. And the other thing to note is if you look at it like on Amazon when you're buying something and you search, let's just say, for a white t-shirt, and you go to all the white t-shirts and you look at it. Well, the first thing you're going to do when you're buying something on Amazon is look at the number of reviews. Look at this, how many stars are on those reviews. How well is this made? What does this offer that the other ones don't? A very similar type of product. So that's another way to set yourself apart and get opinions on it, is having good reviews on that Google My Business. Well, the more people that find you on that are going to leave you reviews, and those are going to show up and have the stars on there.
Right. And I mean, it just, as an estate planner, this is something I know from the people who have shown up on our doorstep. We, for a number of reasons, I don't rank as number one for estate planning, lawyer, or attorney, or any of those big keywords. But the clients we get who are coming through have already gone through, they're doing a search in their area. And then they're sifting through all of these. Many times we're, 10 to 15 further even down. And we'll have people tell us on the way in, yeah, we looked at it and we got to you based on your reviews, based on whatever other factors they saw before they picked up the phone.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously you want to show up as high as you can, but having those reviews when they do get to you is showing that people trust you, people are using you if they've had a great experience. Responding to those reviews is really important. So whether that's your firm doing that, or if you have a service that you're using that responds to those for you, making sure that those people are, they know they were heard, whether that's good, bad, or ugly. Letting them know they were heard is important. And then also it's a great question and answer piece. You can post questions on there and answer them. People can ask you questions through it, and then showing a little bit of your personality. I mean, what's different about you than the attorney down the street? It kind of sets you apart and allows you to give a different first impression just via the internet.
Right. And so as we start to get into, well, what should we actually be doing with this? That's interesting on the question and answer. How, is there a benefit to having the questions come in from outside? Because I can hear, 1,000 attorneys screaming right now, but then I'm going to be engaged. Somebody's going to think I'm their lawyer if I've answered this question. Is it okay to post your own questions and then answer them? What should we be thinking about?
I think there's a couple different ways of looking at it. So I'll divert to Wes here in a minute, but my thought process right away is that content in general is very available and free in most cases on the internet. So just because you can find a video on YouTube on how to tile your own shower doesn't mean you should necessarily do that if you're not capable of it. Same thing like with an attorney may give some advice, but they don't know the specifics of that case or service they're offering. I don't know, Les, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that we touched on there. So even responding to reviews. So a lot of times it's an opportunity for you to engage with somebody that they might even ask a question there, or they might say, I couldn't get a hold of so-and-so, or have a concern, and they actually leave it through a review. That's a chance to re-engage with that client or see how you can help. They might be a current client, and they actually can change their review. So if they have a positive interaction after that, they can change that review, and that can become a positive experience. And people that are seeing negative reviews or positive reviews for that matter and don't see you responding, it just gets back to your brand and what service you provide. You're looking like somebody that cares, that interacts with your customers and is going to follow up. Same with the questions and answers. A lot of times it's basic, directions, or I see a lot of fax number requests and some interesting questions that are on there. But if somebody asks a question and it's not responded to, that they're going to right away feel a certain way about that law firm, and other people are going to see that as well, that nobody cared to answer this. Nobody's following up. What does that say for your overall presence in your firm?
Interesting. Yeah. And I mean, one thing I hadn't heard before is that people can change their reviews. That would be interesting to even think about it as somebody leaves one review, then they come back, or you respond, you have some interaction, and then either have them respond to it, or you respond, like, Dear Bill, thanks so much for coming back. We're glad we were able to get this dealt with for you. Just as a way to reclaim that and try and make the best of any sort of a bad situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you can't expect everyone to change their star rating, but at least having that dialogue and that you reached out says a lot to the next people as well that are looking at your reviews and deciding who to go with.
Right. And as we kind of think more about the basic things we should be doing, I heard you mention making sure that we match up phone numbers and addresses. I know this is something that it seems so basic. How could I mess up my address? But this is something that Google's doing to make sure, look, is this the right person? So in terms of that, what other things should we be lining up as kind of the basic setup of our web page, or of our Google My Business page?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing are the name, address, phone. So that's known as the NAP, right? Making sure the name, they don't want you, the name on your Google My Business page should be the same as the name that your law firm goes by. You don't need to put keywords in there or try to sound like something you're not and rank in that way. That's a negative factor, and it's just not a good customer experience, a client experience. If they're not sure if that's you, it doesn't match up. Your address, obviously, like we touched on, that should be, in the footer of your website. That should be the same one on your business listing, and your phone. So a piece there is that a lot of people like to track their phone numbers and website clicks. You can track those through call tracking or other means through your analytics. But you actually can put a secondary, if you have a tracking number that's not your main local number on your site, you can put a secondary number on Google My Business. And actually then code that into your site as well, so those still do match. So I think some people don't realize that, okay, I want my local number here, I want a certain tracking number on my Google My Business, or vice versa. You can still make those match through the code. So there is still that match, so Google can understand that those two do have a direct correlation. Other thing, like hours of operation, changing for holidays. So holidays coming up, you want to make sure that you have accurate hours for that. And if they're listed on your website, those should match up as well. General listing about your business, just really everything that you're not trying to gamify anything. You're not keyword stuffing or anything like that is old SEO practice. That same goes for Google My Business. You be natural, be yourself, match them up, and that's going to be your best plan of attack.
Yeah, and it's just make it easy for Google to see what's going on. And hearing that the old tactics, the keyword stuffing, it's not working on regular Google, why would they let that through on their proprietary platform?
Exactly.
with that kind of basic stuff out of the way, there are a lot of options of things we can do inside of Google or inside of My Business. Reviews we've touched on, but there are things like promos, offers. As a lawyer, I'm not necessarily putting 25% off your bill this week, or buy one get one free. What, if anything, can lawyers be doing with that bit of real estate? Because that is something that Google's giving to us.
Yeah, and we're talking about Google Posts, so that's still really important for law firms to put on there. So you can, a lot of times people will advertise wins that they had. They can post blog posts that they have that are relevant, new, emerging items in their practice field, just to show that they, are an expert on this. Did you know that? One example that comes to mind from a client of ours is veterans cases. So recently the VA opened up new service connections for veterans. So something like that, they do a blog post on that. You also post that on your Google My Business. It's something really relevant. People are already searching for a veterans attorney. That shows up, right away on your phone as a Google post and on their map listing. That's something that's going to click through and resonate with those kind of clients really quickly.
Okay, so what I'm hearing though is, even if we're not using the promo stuff, if we've got content, we need to make sure it gets into Google Our Business, the My Business page somewhere as well. Absolutely.
And just as a fun fact, so in the last week they changed Google My Business to Google Business Profile. So now we gotta start being ready to say that. Although nobody's there yet.
Nobody's there. So it's not GMB; it's going to be GBP, which is even a worse mouthful. But again, the point, or it's what I'm seeing is, if we're posting it anywhere, we need to make sure that we put it into the business profile as well.
Absolutely. It's not a promo like a car dealership or a retail store, right? But it's content, and it's relevant content to people that are searching for your business or searching for a lawyer in your practice area, in your geolocation.
And so here's the question I know Bobby and I were talking about before. Why does Google My Business make it so hard to post YouTube content from our own channel? Well, or more importantly, what can we do to make that easier?
You can import video, and it's an important part of the strategy. I guess why the connection isn't easier is for anyone to say. It's YouTube is a Google business, right?
Right.
But it's still, there's something to be said for pushing to specific channels, I'm sure. But there's ways around that, and if you have access to your videos, you can still post those with GMB. They take a little longer to upload, and file size is a concern, but it can be done.
They're probably optimizing for easier to download, easier to access video in a way that YouTube doesn't really care, because YouTube will, there's some channels I've subscribed to that'll have 12-hour live streams.
Right.
My business doesn't have time for that. In terms of your clients who are using that video feature, are there any tips on what they're doing? Are they recording the same video twice? Or are they taking one video and then just reprocessing and uploading to the business profile?
I guess it depends on what kind of video content they are putting out and what the resources are. A lot are just repurposing that same video and changing the file size or cutting it to a shorter version and uploading it to YouTube or to the business listing in addition to YouTube. There is some specific content if you wanted to pair it with posts that you put up or other imagery from an event or sponsorship or just some other things that we've run across that might be specific to that and not something that's part of your YouTube campaign. So it's really specific to your marketing mix, I guess.
It could be as simple as some advice if you're making that on the YouTube channel, or even I've seen some people repurpose television commercials on there, just depending if they're funny or relevant. But yeah, just using the content you have is a great way to do things. And then obviously if you have the time and resources to create more, even better.
So we've thought about here, these are the kind of the basic things that we should be doing with any of our profiles. Obviously, make sure we've identified ourselves clearly, respond to reviews, post good content. For the people who are already saying, look, we've already done all of this. We're moving to, what are the next level, the ninja level tactics that people should be thinking about once they've got what sound like the basics down?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things. The product section is a big one. So you can utilize products and services for your service areas, and just give one more build out of your page. You can do your own icons, or even GIFs or motion images on that to make those stand out a little bit more, if you choose. And I think the other big thing that's somewhat new is messaging. So you can enable messaging on your Google My Business listing, and that's really, from a service aspect, that's again just trying to allow people to communicate with your law firm in a way that they're comfortable. So we know that younger generations and millennials are comfortable texting, messaging. Enabling that and having a way to respond to those is going to be important. Now, not everyone's set up to respond or has the time. So, importing those through a system where you can have somebody dedicated, or through your CRM, is important. And, the same can be said for the website. Chat tools are very important to have, in addition to forms and click-to-calls. You just want to make it easy for someone to interact with you, easy for someone to contact you in the way that they're comfortable contacting you.
Absolutely. We say all the time, how do we make this easy? But on the messaging, I will admit I've been nervous about turning it on, only because we're just not checking it as much as we probably should be. Is messaging intended to replicate a chat feature, or is it more, is Google thinking about this more like an email?
It's more like a text, I guess,
okay,
than anything, which, I think there's a lot of tools that chat and text kind of cross over a lot of times, depending on the tools that you're using and the way that people interact with it. It's a lot of the same way. So I think the idea, you can send it right to your phone, or in your interface, or in your email. So I think they're trying to have avenues where law firms, the easiest way for them to respond to it, or to have it go to their systems, is they'd be interested in having it active however it works for the law firm.
Interesting. Do they have any sort of auto responders? Thanks, we've received this. Here's your next step, or is that still in the works?
Yeah, and it can be done. I think those, I'm a little bit like I would rather have it as a managed service personally, that can be responded to in a different way. I think everyone is kind of used to the auto responders, and it's same thing with Facebook messaging, where you get a instantly responds, but again, it's when you get that message back, and it's going to take a while for somebody to make a next action. It's not really something that somebody's going to hold on to. So while it is an option, I think for the most part, those people are going to move on to the next one that they can interact with quickly, if messaging is an option for them. Maybe they go to your website, and if you have chat enabled, they do that if they're sticking with you, if they're already on your page. But auto responders, it's probably better than nothing, but nothing beats just being able to have that conversation, obviously.
So one of the last things I want to ask y'all about is law firms with multiple locations. Obviously, firms are putting offices where their clients are. And that means they're going to have, or they should be setting up multiple Google My Business locations, or Google Business profiles for each location. I'm going to try and train myself into saying the right words now. This seems like it's an easy place to start trapping yourself and getting in Google jail by doing the wrong thing. But one of the things I'm even thinking about right now is not keyword stuffing the name of your business. But if you've got multiple locations, would you start with just saying, Smith Law Firm, Memorial Heights, Smith Law Firm, Highland Village, making up location names. Would you even do that for multiple locations of the same business?
That's probably a controversial topic to some degree. So Google will tell you that it should be the business name, and obviously it's meant for people in that area to find it. So there are different locations. When somebody's in that geo, you should still optimize it and use the general name, and they're going to find the right page, right? There's not going to be crossover where both pages show up because it's location based for the most part. And how you optimize it increases your radius on who can find you. But typically, unless law firms are, have two offices across the street from each other, that's not going to be an issue.
Would very much work the same way, like a Walmart in one city versus a Walmart in another, or a car dealership with the same name in multiple cities. So definitely can be done, just optimized in the correct way.
So, it's the thing I heard you say and I wrote down was increasing the search radius, with the idea we want to build the radius. If we're in one area, we're only going to get people nearby. And so what we don't want to do is start adding in locations, or again, the keyword stuffing. It's all Smith Law Firm, wherever it is. And people will see, oh, this is the location near me.
Yeah, that's correct. And really your category optimization and making sure that all your service areas are listed as primary and secondary, your business description, and you can talk about serving other areas, right, in your description. And that's going to have more of a factor than just putting, differentiating the business name in the title. And again, has it worked for people in some scenarios? I've seen that. And have I seen those ones kind of get flagged and deprioritize it? I've seen that as well. So how much you want to gamble? We typically want to go by Google's best practices, because the negative outweighs the positives.
That sounds like a great place as any to probably close down for right now. Wes and Paul, before I ask you where people can find y'all, any final tips, any good first actions for our listeners to take when they start setting up their Google My Business or Google Business Profile or whatever they call it by the time they're listening to this?
Yeah, I think, that category optimization, and I guess initially setting it up, making sure, and something we didn't touch on, there is folks that have virtual offices now, right? You can still have a Google My Business listing if you're able to receive mail to that office. But not if you're not. So you still have to postcard, verify it. And I've seen people set those up where they don't have a way to get that, and it's not going to work. But for the most part, once you're able to verify, category optimization, just building out the page, being as descriptive as possible, those are kind of the bare bones. And then you can get into more of the meat of the optimization, which we've kind of talked about earlier in the show.
Claim those listings. Don't let anyone else claim your listing.
Definitely that.
Excellent. Wes and Paul, where can listeners find y'all?
Sure. We're at getciville.com, which is GETCIVILLE. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram.
Excellent. We will have links in the show notes so folks can get in touch, probably find your best in category Google My Business Profile listing by searchking for y'all there as well.
Yeah, we've actually got a white paper on it too on our websites for you to check out some tips and tricks.
So we'll have a link for that in the show notes too. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us, John.
Thanks so much for listening. You can find more info on us and get your free white paper on client service at 5starcounsel.com. You can get in touch with me at john@5starcounsel.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe wherever fine podcasts are found and leave us a review wherever you can.